Hello everybody, my name is Stephen Job. I'm the president of Constellix, and I'm excited to kind of walk you through a tutorial of setting up ITO, the Internet Traffic Optimization. This tool and this feature combines two of our applications, the Constellix Sonar Monitoring Suite with the Constellix DNS Suite. It combines some great features of both of them to give you a great feature. And then what this feature really does is it directs your users to the fastest performing services you have. The most common use case in this is directing users to the fastest performing CDN that you have. I'm going to set it up with A records real quickly because that's kind of a quicker way of showing it because I have more control. To set up some traffic shaping that we'll do. We'll do some traffic control to start slowing down some servers, and we'll see how the traffic moves over to the faster servers real quickly. And so please allow this guided tutorial to allow you to set it up on your own. But if you are setting it up for yourself, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our support team. We're more than happy to help you customize the configuration that works best for you and your organization. So looking at our screen right here, you see this is the Constellix DNS dashboard. I'm going to do my work inside the report.us domain. That's the one I usually use for most of our demos and stuff like that, if you've seen our webinars before. And as you know, that what I want to do right now is set up our sonar monitoring. So ITO is Internet Traffic Optimization. It uses the speeds reported by sonar within DNS to tell which ones we want to use and which ones where we want to direct our users to. So I have most of these already configured. I'm going to configure one last one real quickly in Sonar to show how easy it is to set up a check in Sonar. So what I've done previously before is I set up a bunch of DigitalOcean droplets real quickly in different regions. 3 of them are in New York, one's in Amsterdam, and I have one over here in Singapore. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add one. This is A1, A2, A3, A4. I'm going to add another one, and I'm going to call it A5. That's my A record, 5. This is the IP address. I'm just going to check on port 80 real quickly. I'm doing a simple TCP check. I'm going to check every 30 seconds because I want these updates to be really fast. It actually helps in our tutorials and our webinars to have the changes fast. But obviously, every 30 seconds means we're going to be monitoring every 30 seconds. Simultaneous means that we're going to be checking from all of our regions at the same time every 30 seconds. And so this does actually affect your overall monthly invoice at the end of the month. If you're checking once per site, then you're going to check one site every 30 seconds. If you're doing simultaneous, then we're going to check from all sites every 30 seconds. So we're doing a lot more checks, thousands of more checks, depending upon where we're going to be monitoring from. And our verification policy, I could say I want it to be verified from if it goes up and down for their DNS failover features, which are automatically integrated into the ITO features. If the system's down, it will remove it from our pool, which we're going to set up. So if you want to verify that it's down from the majority of your locations, and we go up to 7, so you want to say it's down from 7 of the places you're monitoring, or the majority of the ones you're monitoring from, you would choose a majority configuration. For this one, I'm going to do simple. What simple means is that we're going to check from all the monitoring nodes every 30 seconds. If any of them report it down, we're going to check again from that node specifically, and then we're going to check to the next closest node near it, and where it's down within that region. If we get 2 confirmed downs, we then consider it down, and then that check is considered down. It would then notify our Constellix DNS application, which would then take it out of the pool so no one would see it anymore. We have tons of webinars. I showed the DNS failover features. I don't want to get into that right now. I want to keep this webinar nice and short. I want to keep this tutorial nice and short for everybody. So this is our notification report. This is how long, when you receive these emails, how long you want this report that you can share to all your other team members that they can click on and view on it without authentication. I am going to monitor from all of our different monitoring nodes at the same time. This is something that not many users do, especially at the time limit that I'm setting, which is every 30 seconds and simultaneous. This means that I'm doing, thousands and thousands and thousands of checks per month, which would, show into your invoice. And the Constellix Sonar pricing is very, very affordable. Some clients do this, but most people that are doing simultaneous wouldn't select all the regions. I'm just going to do it real quickly to keep it the same. That's what I've done for the other checks. And this last right here is who I want to notify. These are the different contact groups I've set up. I don't want to receive any emails for this right now because I don't have time to show that to you as well, but that's where you would choose that at the same time. There are some optional parameters you can put in at the same time. You can do scheduled downtime if you know your system's going to be down. You can pass in certain strings into your TCPs and stuff like that. Obviously, for HTTP and HTTPS checks, you can have more configurations you can do. But I want to keep it simple because really the basic of this tutorial is to show you ITO, and it's not really to show you how to configure Sonar. We have other tutorials for that. So I'm going to save this real quickly. And you can see I now have the A5 in there. And what this means right now, the reason why there's no snapshot in here is because it isn't started yet. Once I start it, it's then going to start gathering all this data around all of our nodes that I've selected. If I click on it now, we're going to see nothing's come back yet. You can wait a few more seconds once it starts being scheduled. What's going to happen eventually is when I click on it, I'm going to see the reporting time from all the different nodes all around the world that I'm checking from. And so if I go click on it now, let's go back there. So it's going to start, once it starts getting scheduled, you're going to start seeing that data presented and brought into the thing. So we're going to go back and check on that in 1 second. What I want to do now is actually configure the part in the Constellix DNS application, which is going to use all this data. It's going to use this A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, or these are the actual IPs right here, to get all that data. So, okay, here it is, A5. You see now I'm starting to get all this data, and it's starting to report back in. And this is reported in real time. So you can see that like this IP that I'm giving to is a node based in Singapore. So you can see from Chicago, it's much much slower. If you get into Singapore, it's really fast. Obviously, it's probably the same data facility. What else do we have in? As I go through Tokyo, Japan, a little bit closer. So obviously, monitoring nodes in the Asia-Pacific region are going to be much faster for this. And this is important to know because we're going to do something. We're first going to set up my internet traffic optimization to use worldwide averages, to do some real basic worldwide averages. But if you really wanted to use the best performing CDN in particular regions, you would want to do monitoring of your CDNs at each particular region and then use those values, the averages of those regions for your users and direct users there. So first I'm going to set up a real basic example of a worldwide average, and then I'm going to show you how we would then customize it to do a more specific, region-specific best of CDN. So you can use different CDNs in different regions. You can use 4 different CDNs in Asia-Pacific region than you use in the United States, and different CDNs in Europe. You might want to do that just based on pricing, economics, the features they provide, and everything like that. So we allow you that sort of flexibility. Obviously, in Sonar, instead of putting the IP address in here, you would put the fully qualified domain name of your CDNs in there instead, and that's what you'd be monitoring on. And instead of creating what we're going to be creating an A record pool, you're going to want to create a CNAME pool instead. So real quickly, let's go into the Constellix DNS, and this is where I'm going to talk about the different pools we can create. So I'm going to go to configure. I'm going to go to management. I'm going to go to the A record pools. If you were creating a CNAMEs or for CDNs, you would create CNAME record pools in here, and you would create your different pools to all the different CDNs you'd use. LeaseWeb, StackPath, Akamai, etc. You would put those CDNs in there, and we'd monitor those endpoints for you. And we're going to be building a lot more tools to make this a lot more automated. But right now, it's really simple to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'm going to create an A record pool real quickly to show you how fast it can be done. And this is going to be my IDO pool. Give it a name. The number to return is the number of IPs I want to return at one time. And the min available shows me how many IPs or systems I need to be up before I consider this pool bad. And if the pool is bad, you can fail over the whole entire pool to another pool, which is really a great feature. This is useful in data facilities when clients have racks of systems and multiple data facilities around the world, and they need at least 30 of their 100 systems functioning in order for that facility to be up. And unless 30 of them are up, we consider that whole site down and we move the whole entire traffic somewhere else. This is why Constellix is being used to power some of the largest web traffic sites out there. We're doing a lot of the back-end navigating for a lot of the cloud instances for features like that. So I'm going to put in the different IPs that I have. Obviously, I only added the one sonar, but I'm going to add in all the different IPs over here that I have. So that's one IP for a system in New York. This one IP is another system in New York. This one IP is for a system in New York, actually Amsterdam. I keep going through over here. That's one that's in actually New York again. And lastly, this is the one that's for the system I just showed how I add the monitoring for in Singapore. And now what I do, I need to integrate this with my sonar check to choose which check I want to use, because you could be monitoring from multiple different services on each of these servers. So I'm going to choose right here my A1, let's keep it nice and simple, my A2, A3, A4, and obviously A5. Now obviously if I did not add A5 in sonar, I would not be given this option. It would say none found. So you need to make sure you add the check for your particular FQDN if you're doing a CNAME pool, or you need to add the check for your particular IP if you're doing an A pool, or if you're doing a quad A pool, you obviously need to add your particular IPv6 address in sonar, and that makes sense. Our policy kind of tells you what you want to do with the failover options of the pool. If you always want to follow sonar, so if sonar says it's up, use it. If sonar says it's down, don't use it. That's what follow sonar means. Always off means, you know what, right now we're doing maintenance on this. I want to take it out of rotation. So you just switch it to always off, and it'll never be used in the pool for any of its calculations. Always on means, you know what, I want to keep this thing on all the time. I don't care if sonar says it's off. I know we're currently having some issues. It's important for me to keep this system online even though it's dropping packets and it's having some outages. I understand that, I'm working on it, but I want to keep the system on all the time. And off on failure means as soon as sonar detects it off, turn it off. So leave it on, but once it is off, leave it off. Don't turn it back on when sonar sees it back on again. And sometimes a lot of companies will choose this option if they're doing a master-slave database replication, obviously. So for this, I'm just going to say follow sonar for all of them, all the way down. Now, you can see right here the enable internet traffic optimization. This is the feature that I'm really doing this tutorial for right now. And so this is going to tell you how we're going to monitor and check for speeds. So right now within sonar, if you see we're going through over here, I'm getting speeds from all my different regions, right, for all my different monitoring points. And if I actually click on my individual hosts, it's going to come in, it's going to say, okay, you know, North America East, this is my speed, North America Central, North America West, Europe, this is my average of my speeds, Oceania, this is my average of speeds, and Asia Pacific, my average speed is 42. Obviously, this one's in Singapore, it's going to be faster. If I look at one of the nodes that is in New York City, I should see, you know, something just the opposite. See North America East, very fast, North America Central, 42, a little bit longer, because this box is in New York City. So North America West is a little bit longer. Europe, obviously longer. Oceania, obviously the longest. Asia Pacific, obviously longer. So this is important to know. So if you're doing different CDNs, you want to make sure you're monitoring, and if you care about the average in those regions to be used within ITO, you want to make sure that you are choosing monitoring nodes in that region. But like I said at first, I'm going to keep this simple. I'm going to do a monitoring region, and I'm not going to choose any of those regions. I'm just going to choose world. But if I cared, if I said I want to use the fastest in Asia Pac here, I would do Asia Pac, right? So this is my world one, and it's probably good for me to note that this is going to be my world average. And what the world average does, it doesn't take all the different monitoring nodes and averages them. It takes the average for North America East, and the average for Europe, the average for Asia Pac. It takes the average for wherever I have monitoring nodes. So if I'm only monitoring in 3 of those regions, it takes those 3 averages. It takes those 3 averages and averages them. It doesn't say if I have 10 monitoring nodes in Europe and only 1 in North America East, average it across the 11. It won't do that. It takes the averages and then does a worldwide average on that level. So, and what I want to do here is I'm going to say I'm going to return my best performing one. So whichever one's the best performing, choose it. If I want to choose my best performing 2, then I would do 2, and also I got to make sure my number to return, I want to return 2 at the same time. If you don't do that, you're going to get an error message. But for right now, what I want to do is just choose my best performing one. And then the deviation allowance. Now this is a really important tool. This will let you know how much you have to deviate from one check to the next check in order for us to change those IPs. Obviously, every time a change is done, there's a propagation that's done. We're pushing out this change to thousands of the Constellix DNS name servers worldwide. You don't want to be doing this all the time. There is a small incremental charge every time you make a small change. It's fractions of a penny, but if you're doing it thousands and thousands of times a month, it will add up. So if you're noticing your ITO is causing your pools to consistently keep re-evaluating, you might want to make a larger deviation allowance. Say, okay, I want it within 20% of the other value. It needs to be off by 20% or gained by 20%. So if it's going from 10 to 9 milliseconds, that's only 10%. I need to go from 10 to 10 to 8 or 10 to 12 milliseconds. That's a big enough change in order for me to reevaluate and choose which one's the fastest. So I'm going to put this at a reasonable value. 10's obviously the most sensitive. It's going to be changing it more often, especially because multiple of these are within New York City. You'll be changing it very often because we're really doing, within a few milliseconds. I'm going to say within 30 milliseconds. It'll give me, if it's a third slower, or if the newer one now is now a third faster than the other slowest one, then what I want that's being used, which is only using 1. So if the number 2 is 30% faster than the current number 1, make a change, which is it's pretty good. Most users are using 10, 20, or 30. If you really want, if it really needs to be really, really slow, then you would do 90%, or it needs to be 90%, almost 100% slower. Most users don't want that. Obviously, if you're this concerned about speed, if you're using multiple CDNs, if you're putting all that cost into your infrastructure, into your services, most users aren't going to use 90%. But this is obviously a good value for people to use, to test out the services and start. You can always modify and change it when you want to. So I'm just going to set it at 30% to start off with. And this right now just tells me the pool is not being applied to any in my domain, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to save this, and this is my my ITO pool world right there. And so what I want to do right now is I'm going to go into my domain, and I'm going to go into my report.us, and I'm going to create my record, and I'm just going to call it pool. Right? And I'm not going to put any geoproximity or IP filters on it. But what I'm going to say, okay, for the pool, I'm going to say that my ITO pool world is going to be used. All right, save and close. And then just like everything else in Constellix, you want to apply this. So I'm going to click, I'm going to review my changes, make sure there's anything else. I see if I had anything else that anyone else in my team worked on or I'm working on before I commit it. I could review it right here. I could go back to editing, roll back the changes. I'm going to commit these changes and make a, I'm going to say apply ITO. Pool. You can make a little note that you can then search on later on if you need to. All right, so that's now applied. So if I look at pool.report.us, I'm going to bring up my little one of my windows right here, and right. So I'm going to do a host on pool.rprt.us at 1. You're going to see I'm getting 162.243.18.218 back. So that's the one that it's preferencing the fastest. If I go into my A record pools, you can see that the current world speeds averaging is 104 milliseconds for this one. Obviously in New York, so that the other speeds are kind of killing it, the Asia Pac and Oceania speed. But that's obviously the fastest one of everyone else. That's one. This is 106. This is 106. This is 141. So you see how it's choosing the fastest one. So what I want to do, that's our second one over here. So what I want to do is I'm now going to go into our second box, which is this one, and I'm going to do a small traffic control line, and I'm going to add 400 milliseconds to everything going in and out of that box. You can see now when I hit enter, it's really slowing down. And so if I go in here, and this is the monitoring frequency, is how often the DNS application is going to ask Sonar for, say, hey, give me all the averages for all these checks, and it makes a transaction. So I'm going to go into Sonar, and you're going to see in this one right here, I now added 400 milliseconds. So you're going to see now response times should start going through the roof. Everything should actually be really, really slow as soon as they all refresh. This was for number 2. So I'm going to click here again. There it is. So even Chicago's now is 423. Everything I added 400 milliseconds to. This one box isn't reporting. That's why it's saying 10 minutes ago, but that's going to be used. That'll eventually be caught up and reported. Everything else here you see, though, is moving at 400 milliseconds plus. So that's really going to mess up your averages if you're doing it. So what if you look at now at our pool, you're going to see that this one, the average is now speed is 499 milliseconds, and the fastest one's now this number 4, 67215. And if I make a query, let's go back to my other window wherever I was. If I make my query now, you're going to see it's the 671. It changed the address to the fastest pool that it now sees. My deviation allowance only said it can only be 30% faster or slower. This is obviously 4 times. It's 400% faster. It's going to choose it. It fits within the deviation allowance. And so really, that's kind of how ITO works. It's unbelievably successful. It works great. It keeps CDNs running fast. So, like I said, I set it up on the world value. Let's say now if I wanted to set it up just one more specific for the Asia Pac region. I said I want to use the fastest one for Asia Pac. And so what I'm going to do is pretty much do the exact same thing. I'd add a new pool. I'm going to do ITO pool. And this, I'm going to use the Asia Pac speeds here. Just to make it easier for me, I'm going to put that there. I'm now going to put the exact same 4 IPs again. All right, and this is where you would put if you did this for a CNAME and for a CDN, you would put the FQDNs, the fully qualified domain names that your CDNs provided you. I'm going to go through here. And then I'm going to enable ITO. And over here now, I am going to choose Asia Pac. We're going to monitor from that. We're going to do 20% and save. Oh, I got to do sonar checks. I can't have ITO turned on if I'm not actually going to integrate it with which checks I want to monitor, which checks I want to use for the speed. So I have to go through here. All set. Okay. Oh no, what I probably want to do too before we do that, I want to go back to this. I'm going to go back to this box, which I added this 400-second delay, and I now actually want to delete that delay. So I'm going to do my traffic control. Let me delete it. Let me go back over here, and now you're going to, if we start going and looking at this, we're going to start seeing some faster times again. There they are. They automatically start popping up. Because we're checking every 30 seconds from all locations. You're going to see these fixed up really, really quickly and going all the way down. So you're going to see next time I go and do it again, there they are. They're all changing. But obviously we're still doing an average, and the average does matter. So if I go back to my pool, look at my world pool, you're going to see that every 30 seconds we're going to check in and see what the new average is. So our last time we checked in was 424.23. Maybe we hit a 30-second hit over here. There we go. So our new average now is 104.79. So this is now still the fastest, but it didn't hit within the 30% ratio, right? So it's not going to automatically get it because our deviation allowance. So that's one thing. It's close enough to 105.13 that's not within 30%. It's got to be like 30 milliseconds. It's not within 30 milliseconds that I want to change all the name servers again, push out this change to thousands of name servers, and potentially incur extra costs. I want to just, keep it lower. And so that's the reason why I didn't change it back. But you can see how fast the speeds are updated. How often DNS application asks Sonar is done right here in the monitoring frequency. And what it does, it says for all these checks here, give me all your averages. Give me your average for Oceania, Asia Pac, Europe, North America Central, North America West, Oceania, and World. And then I will then choose based upon what monitoring region the user wants, which one that I think is the best performing. You can choose the top 2, the top 3, etc. So let me close this. So we have the Asia Pac World one, and inside our domain report.us, what I could do now is I can say, okay, for users in particular countries. So if I did my IP filter, and actually I'm going to create an IP filter real quickly. Or we could do this within a global traffic. I would probably use a global traffic director. I'm just going to share how easy it is to set up multiple filters. So I'm going to do a new IP filter, and I'm going to say everyone from Asia and everyone from Oceania. I'm going to call this my Asia. Oceania. All right. And then I'm going to go to my monitoring and my domains. And obviously, you could do this 2 different ways. I'm going to show you both ways real quickly, if I'm not boring you already. So we have our pool, and so what it's important for me to do is to say, okay, make sure this is at the world, because you want to have a world default value. And I would have done that anyway, but I just want to show you why it's necessary. You always need the world to go to somewhere else. And I'm going to create another pool, and now I'm going to change this to my Asia Pac filter. So anyone coming from those IPs, and once again, we're using, once the IP hits our authoritative DNS servers, we're checking to see the IP that it came from. So it could be a resolving name server. And if it supports eDNS client subnet, so if the resolving name server supports that protocol and it passes us the actual client's IP, we use this for the calculation. And it's okay, and for this pool, I want to choose our Asia Pac. And then we save and close. And now I want to commit this and save changes. Now, obviously, I'm using this here with an IP filter. You can also use geoproximity. You can make calculations based upon where people are. I would probably, if I was doing this myself, I would probably use the global traffic director as the first step, and then I would use IP filters to make more specific rules on top of it. We have tons of videos and tutorials to talk about that, but once again, as your organization is having any of these questions, feel free to reach out to our support staff. We are fully trained, and everyone here understands traffic optimization and making sure people go to the fastest spot for what you want for your users. Performance is key for us, and that's how we use the exact same tools to monitor our name servers, monitor our performance around the world. So you can see I have these 2 different tools here, and so now if I look at a query here where I'm located near Washington, D.C., if I do the report, I'm getting the 67 address. If I go to that box in Asia Pacific, so this one box was in Singapore, and if I run it, that's the wrong command. I want to do a host. And it's 11. I just do a host overall. You can see I get the 188 address, right? So likewise, if I ask one of the Google name servers there, I get the 188 address because I'm asking a Google resolving name server in the Asia Pacific region, and that's going to say the 188 address is the fastest. Once again, the 188 address was the box that we added over there in Singapore, so that's why it's the fastest. And if I look at, let me do a quick refresh here. If I look at this box, you can see it's locked. It means it's being used in a configuration now. But if I look at these speeds compared to the other ones, my Asia Pacific speeds are much faster because this box is located in Singapore, and so it's going to give you faster speeds than anyone else from the other monitoring regions we're monitoring from. Whereas no one else in those regions is going to even come close to Asia Pacific because they're across the other side of the world. Even if we look at the one that's in Amsterdam, which I believe is A3. Look at this right here, you're going to see that it's faster only for the Europe. So if we wanted to create another more specific IP rule and apply it to the name servers in Europe, or do an IP filter for Europe, that's what we would use, and then we would use that world average, right? So that's really how ITO, Internet Traffic Optimization, works. I'm going to show you real quickly. If you wanted to set it up, a pool in CNAMEs, you would go here, and you would do pretty much the exact same thing. You would say, okay, this is my CDN for Europe, and then I'm, over here I could put in rprt.us, and then it would give me which boxes I'm monitoring from. Once again, this would be you would put your FQDN that StackPath gives you, or LeaseWeb, or Akamai, or any of those large CDN providers give you. You would put them in there, and in Sonar, you want to make sure that you're actually monitoring that FQDN. Obviously, I have these 4 already monitored. If I did 5.report.us real quickly, RT.us, you're going to see it's not going to show up because I haven't added it yet, right? So what I would have to do is go in here and say, okay, add check, and do a TCP check. I'm going to call this my 5.rprt.us, and I'm going to do 5.rpr. I'm going to monitor port 80. Real quickly again, I want to make sure that I'm checking from a bunch of different regions, especially Asia Pac, because that's where I have this box is located. I'm just going to choose all my monitoring locations around the world, close it, save it. It's going to start building it in. So now, if I click off it, I might have to. Let me actually do 2. And let me add the 5 now. See, now it shows the Sonar check is there because I just added it. Obviously, you need a matching FQDN in your account. It needs to be in your account, obviously. You need a matching FQDN to match with what you're putting into your pools, or likely, same thing, what you're putting into your A records or CNAME records for failover and everything else. Okay, so that was it. I thank you very much for taking your time. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. We're super excited about all these features. I want to show you, this obviously is, if we did do this, CDN Europe, obviously I want to choose Europe over here as my speeds at the same point. And we'll choose, and this would be my different CDNs, and this would be, I'm monitoring from Europe, and this would be my fastest performing CDN in Europe. So if you do have any other questions, feel free to let us know. This is a great tutorial, and hopefully you can use this to start understanding the power of the Constellix platform, how it gives you all the features, and the benefits of choosing your best providers. You can do it based on financial terms, budgets, cost of the CDN providers, performance, everything aligned. That's what you have your weight for and everything like that. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Once again, my name is Stephen Joe. I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or comments, or you want any feedback on our products, you want any other features you don't think we have, let us know. That's my main responsibility here. And thank you very much for taking your time. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.